The New York Giants came into the 2023 NFL season with a lot of hype and expectations. And to be honest, too, I remember watching that first game against Dallas on Sunday night, and I watched Daniel Jones just methodically lead this Giants offense down the field. And, man, it was, I think, a false start, then a sack, and then a blocked field goal. And, man, their season never really turned around until, honestly, the past couple of weeks where they actually, I think, started to play some good football. Tyrod Taylor came in, I think, was very serviceable as their quarterback here. I think a good option going into the 2024 season, depending on what happens with Daniel Jones and what they want to end up doing with their draft position right now. But we're going to break down their 2023 NFL season, kind of give our thoughts and some just kind of key player statistics as well. Then at the end of the video, we're going to preview the 2024 offseason and their picks, key free agents, and some of their team needs that we think they're going to address in the offseason. So before we do that, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And Ryan, let's pull up the slides here that we've thrown together. So not shocking at all. Giants have one of the worst passing offenses in the league, and a lot of that too, I think, has to do with the sacks that they've allowed, which is the second most that a team has allowed in a single season, only behind the 1985 Philadelphia Eagles, who I think gave up 106 sacks. And so, still, that's a lot. That's absolutely crazy. So, part of the reason, too, why so many guys were getting hurt, Saquon Barkley got hurt early on in the season. He had a sprained ankle, had to go on IR. Daniel Jones was in and out of the lineup. And you can argue even his play when he was healthy was shaky. But definitely he was constantly under duress. And we've seen that a lot with quarterbacks who just can't stay healthy. And when they don't have an offensive line in front of them, just go look at Andrew Luck. Like, they're going to get banged up. So he tore his ACL. He's going to be coming back here, hopefully in 2024, all healthy. It's going to be very interesting on what they end up utilizing this 6th pick here, because I think they're just far enough out to where I think they're going to have to give up a little bit more than they would like to do to go get a quarterback. They're also going to miss out on Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. I'm fairly confident about that. Rome Odunze should be there. I think that he would be a great pick for the team. But also at the same time, though, they have arguably the worst offensive line in the league. But do you want to shell out another pick on an offensive lineman who has all the physical traits, like what everybody was saying about Evan Neal, but have him not pan out? Then at the same time, what do you do with Evan Neal? So they're in a very precarious situation here. And we're going to get into that a little bit later. But I just bring that up with the offensive line, and they need more receiving weapons. And what do you do with their quarterback? And all three of those positions are going to be available at some point for the 6th overall pick. Defensively, I actually thought that they improved tremendously over the season here. Second half of the season, and as we saw in the final game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, maybe you can make an argument that the Eagles' offense is not the same, but still, Giants team, they were giving them threats even a couple weeks before. So this Giants defense is one of the better ones. I think when it comes to some of those stats, I think they were behind so often in some of these games, especially running the ball, that I think that kind of inflated the stats just a little bit throughout the season. But they could end up getting an edge rusher at some point and improve a little bit more in the passing game, help out Kayvon Thibodeau and company there. So I've been talking a lot. Want to hear what's your overall thoughts on this Giants team?
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that I thought as well. I thought this Giants defense, as this offense, this offense I do think improved a little bit at the end of the season as well. And I do think this defense in the first part of the season, similar to the New England Patriots, I think struggled with motivation just because of how bad the team actually was. And then as things kind of slowly started to improve, these guys started to play a little bit better. And then at the end, I do think that they were getting after the passer pretty well. They were stuffing the run really well. And I think also, too, another thing that leads to the poor statistics on the defensive side of the ball is this offense being so bad in the first, for the majority of the season. They were put in a lot of really bad spots, just being on the field a ton, having to defend short fields and whatnot. So I do really think that this defense has some good pieces. Deonte Banks had a good rookie campaign for them. I like what they have going forward. It does look like they're going to roll with Brian Dabble going forward. He gets another year up in New York, and really, I think he will probably stick with Daniel Jones there. And like you said, I think they're going to miss out on the top 3 quarterback prospects there at number 6. Also, Marvin Harrison Jr. will definitely be off the board. Malik Neighbors will also probably be off the board. But I do think, depending on if one of those teams wants a tackle over a wide receiver, that could be an interesting debate there. But yeah, and so all in all, I mean, they do have 2 tackles that they've invested a lot into, in Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. This offensive line, they also just got not John Michael Schmitz. Who's the center they just drafted? Is it? No, it is John Michael Schmitz.
Yeah, I think it was John Michael Schmitz.
Yeah. And so like they've invested into that interior. I think they can kind of continue to do that, and I think that's a good segue into the next slide. So they do have about $30 million in cap space, which I feel like is about average. Looking at the chart earlier, it's not numbered; they're just kind of all the teams in a row.
That'd be a little bit above average. They
might
have
be a little bit above
more
average.
wiggle room. Yeah.
Okay. And then draft pick wise, they have 2 seconds, a third, no 7th, but at that point, those are just preferred undrafted free agents, I guess. And then notable free agents: Saquon Barkley, they franchise tagged him last year. Adoree Jackson, Raheem Nunez Roches, and Xavier McKinney are all free agents as well. Getting Saquon back, I think, is going to be huge for this team. They were an average running team, even with all of the injuries that they had. And that was really the only source of offense that they had. So that to me is going to be a really big deal there. And then Xavier McKinney is a really solid player for them as well. So yeah, and the team needs offensive line, receivers, re-signing the defensive talent, and then offensive line again on their.
I wasn't sure. I just wanted to reiterate that they needed offensive line help.
Yeah.
When put it in there. So I probably could have put it in there another time.
Yeah. I really think that at 6, they will be in the running for one of the top tackles. Just because with Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal both being injured this year, Evan Neal's play when he has been on the field has been subpar at best. Yeah. And I think they'll possibly actually even move on from him this offseason, whether it's via trade or releasing him. So it'll be interesting to see what they do to address these needs. But I do think there is some positives for them coming out of this year.
Well, and that's where I think the positive is that, like, well, one the defense. Okay, it looks like the defense is going in the right direction, and I think one of the things also too, you mentioned Brian Daboll, and I think we have seen his offensive creativity and how well this offense can work together when Daniel Jones is healthy and the offensive line is playing somewhat competently. So I just imagine if they are able to actually get a consistent offensive line help and actually get them a legit receiver threat, it just seemed like they just were never able to get the ball going. They were constantly under pressure. And then some teams, I mean, shoot, the Bengals, we get the Bengals a long leash because we know those first 8 weeks, yeah, they might go 3-5 or 4-4. But after that, Joe Burrow and that offense is going to figure it out, and they're going to go win 8 games. Now, of course, they were starting to do that, but then he didn't break his hand.
He tore a ligament in his wrist.
Yeah. So he got hurt, I believe, like week 12 or week 13, which shot their season. They were sitting at 6-5, but I could see them going on that run. Who's to say the Giants wouldn't have done something similar like that? I know they really struggled over those first 5-6 weeks. Daniel Jones, I think, went down with an ACL injury in week. Which one was it?
Was it 7?
7. I think it was week 7.
Yeah.
Or week 8 if he missed a game just because of other injuries. But who's to say though? Like if they could somehow get to like 3-5, especially in this, like how weak the NFC is. I mean, we're looking. The Packers made it at 7, at 9 and 8, and we're looking at the Rams did make it at 10 and 7. But if we go look at their schedule down the road, they did end up playing Philadelphia twice, but very well could have beaten Philadelphia the first time.
It was week 9. He had a neck injury in week 5.
That's what it was. I knew he missed some time for something else, but they picked it up. They even beat the Packers. I think that they could beat the Saints. I think they would have competed against the Eagles. They almost beat the Rams at home. So in Week 17. So who's to say if they were healthier and they had the offensive weapons and Daniel Jones was able to kind of get into that rhythm, and we gave him that slack that we give Joe Burrow in that offense. Not saying that he's Joe Burrow, but we know that the Bengals are going to pick it up. They're going to figure it out. And that's what the Giants did last season. They made the playoff run and they made that divisional round push. So who's to say? I think they get hit by the injury bug. I think the offensive line definitely regressed, which was shocking compared to how bad they were in 2022. I couldn't think they could regress anymore.
Yeah.
But, they are definitely a receiving talent away. And if they don't want to go with the offensive line, if they just want to roll with what they got, or at least go get second-round offensive talent, which I totally get, I think they're in a very unique spot with that 6th overall pick to trade back. Because let's say hypothetically the Bears trade back with the Commanders or Patriots, and then they end up going Marvin Harrison Jr., 2 QBs come off the board. Then let's say Cardinals go with Malik Neighbors, and then Chargers go with offensive linemen, or if they want to go with Brock Bowers there. I think Chargers are also in this scenario as well just because of that. You're looking at the Falcons at 8, who need a quarterback. Vikings at 11 would need a quarterback. Broncos are going to be looking for a quarterback with Russell Wilson out at 12. I think the Raiders are at 13, I believe, and the Saints are also up there as well. I know they signed Derek Carr, but that's for a separate video. Anyways, those are all teams that are within 10 picks that could potentially go and move up and just give up a first round and then some other capital ones or some other later round picks.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're in a spot here. If they don't like the guys or if they want to roll with what they got, they don't feel comfortable just getting another tackle here in the top 10, potentially trading back and getting some more draft capital, potentially getting a first-round pick for next year as well, depending on who they want to trade with, for a team that is QB needy. I think that they could benefit from that. I think the Chargers are also in that scenario as well. It's going to be interesting to see how the offseason plays out, which prospects rise and which guys are like, we have to have this quarterback. If Jaden Daniels turns out to be like a bust and people find a bunch of flaws, and then it really then just turns into a 2 QB race, people might not want to go trade up for a QB. Maybe they'll want to go trade it for an offensive lineman and try and jump Tennessee, who's definitely going to be looking for an offensive lineman. So it'll be interesting to see where the Giants end up and kind of what their overall mindset's going to be heading into the 2024 draft.
Yeah, no, I really like the direction that they could go here. I just hope that they listen to us and that they really take our ideas into consideration and do the right thing for all the Giants fans out there. So
if you subscribe and get this channel bigger, maybe Brian Dable and the GM will be able to kind of just pop by one of our videos and see what we have to say.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Tyler and I have a goal of getting to 3,000 subscribers by the end of the NFL postseason. So if you can help us reach that goal, we'd be very appreciative. Smash that bell so you get notified when we create new Giants content. Leave a comment down below on what you think the Giants should do this offseason. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.